Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to do an updated video on hydroxychloroquine side effects. Almost a year ago, I did a video on plaquenil side effects and talked about my experience, but a lot of stuff has happened since then. So I wanted to do an updated video on what I was talking about, what it really was, and what I found out since then. So when I was diagnosed with lupus, my rheumatologist prescribed plaquenil, also known as hydroxychloroquine. He called it vitamins for lupus and said, whoever has lupus gets on this drug. I started taking it immediately. I had a lot of high hopes for this. I knew other people with lupus that did really well on hydroxychloroquine. And so I had all of the same hopes. I wanted to do well on it. I started taking it right away. But as soon as I started taking hydroxychloroquine, I started having side effects. However, at the time, I didn't realize it was from the hydroxychloroquine. So there was a lot of doubt on my mind and also my doctor's mind on what was really going on. So I started taking hydroxychloroquine. I got up to the full dose that you take for lupus. And these are the things that started happening. One, my flares doubled. Instead of having one a week, I started having two a week. The duration of the flare also doubled. So instead of one day, my flares became 2 days. And I started becoming sick 4 days out of the week, every single week. Now, when I told my doctor about this, when I take hydroxychloroquine, my flares have now doubled. The amount of time that I have a flare has now doubled. He said, give it time. It takes a long time to get into your system before it starts doing good. So let's just ride this out. And I said, okay. Now, riding out flares that have doubled and become more intense. So that now that I'm sick 4 days out of 7 is ridiculous when I look back on it. But I so wanted to get better that I did whatever the doctor said, right? And so if he said, give it time, I thought I had to give it time. And I thought the flares would reduce. I mean, that's why we're on any of the meds that we're on, is to actually reduce flares so that we can live a better life. But my flares doubled and stayed doubled. Also, my general health took a complete nosedive that year. It absolutely got worse and worse, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. For that entire year, I took hydroxychloroquine. My health continued to deteriorate. My flares were getting worse. I was dealing with 4 days out of every week becoming extremely sick. And then to top it all off, at night, my eyesight would become blurry. Not so blurry that I couldn't see, but blurry enough that I would notice the difference and wonder, what's going on here? And it would be almost every night is what it started building up to. It was once or twice, and then it kind of started happening every night. Well, I went to see an eye doctor, told them to check everything out, told them the drug that I was on, why I was on it, and that I had to have extra careful eye care. They're like, yes, you do. So they checked everything. They couldn't see anything wrong with my eye. However, every night, about the time we would sit down on the couch to watch TV, my eyesight would become blurry. They couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. I kept going back to my specialist, telling him the results. I'm like, I'm sicker. My eyesight is becoming blurry. He's like, okay, great. See an eye doctor. I saw the eye doctor. The eye doctor's like, I don't know. I don't know if the drug is causing it. I don't know why your eyesight is going blurry. Perhaps you're having a flare and it's affecting the eyesight at that time. So I went back to the specialist and I'm like, look, the eye doctor can't find anything, but I'm telling you, my eyes are blurry every night. My health is deteriorating. And his reaction every time was, you haven't been on it long enough. You've only been on it 3 months. You've only been on it 6 months. You've only been on it 9 months. You need a full year under your belt. Well, during that time, I was buying this hook, line, and sinker and just thought it was the way, and that magically Maybe after a full year, I would become better. The pill would start working. Well, I waited and continued to go downhill. Now, in the other video that I'm going to link to in this one, I talk about muscle weakness, not being able to walk. I wasn't sure if that was hydroxychloroquine or not. I talked to my doctor about it. I said, these could be side effects, but he wasn't convinced. He was like, it could be, but I don't know. So go see a specialist to check your muscles. So I did. And they came back and said, hey, you have a bad back. That's probably causing all of this. Now, I've had a bad back my entire life since fourth grade. I was in an accident. I've had the bad back. However, the bad back has never messed with my eyesight. It has never made me have a lupus flare that I know about. And it had never caused muscle weakness. This was the first year I had ever had any type of muscle weakness. So here's the issue. I was talking to my doctor as much as I could. Every time I had a visit, I would tell him everything that I was going through and that I didn't feel it was right. And yet he would say, you haven't been on the drug long enough. Now, he did that at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. He tried to do it again at 12 months. You haven't been on the drug long enough. Now, how long does one have to be on a drug before the drug actually starts to work? That was my question at that point. I'm like, look, I've given this drug a year of my time. My health has never been worse. My lupus has never been more out of control at this point. And now I'm worried about my eyesight. Not only just eyesight, but I started having muscle weakness. At that time, the doctor advised me not to go off of this drug because studies show people with lupus that take hydroxychloroquine live longer. They live a longer life. And that was the hill that he wanted to go to just, that was it. He dug in his boots and that's where he stood. Well, that wasn't good enough for me because the quality of my life matters to me the most. I need a better quality of life, and hydroxychloroquine never gave it to me. It made my flares worse. They doubled. The intensity was worse. My eyesight was going blurry. I was having intense muscle weakness. I started losing my ability to walk and losing all of my energy. Now that I've been over a year off of the drug, I have a little bit of a hindsight as to some of those issues that were going on. And that's why I wanted to make an updated video. The muscle weakness that I was experiencing was not due to the hydroxychloroquine at that time. It was not. The problem that I've since discovered is that I am not able to utilize my amino acids at the cellular level. That is what's causing muscle weakness. However, I've been over a year off of hydroxychloroquine. My health is better. My lupus flares have gone down in number and down in intensity. So that reverted back to the way that it was before I started taking hydroxychloroquine. And I no longer have eyesight blurriness. Now, the eyesight blurriness would kind of come and go and would be more in the evenings. And so the doctors would determine your eyes are just tired because you work on the computer. You do all of these things all day, so your eyesight is tired. Well, after getting off hydroxychloroquine, my eyesight has never been better. My eyes are not blurry. They're not getting tired randomly every single night. So I am not a medical doctor. I don't know anything about the actual drug, the makeup. Only thing I know is what it did to me, how my body reacted to this drug. And I wanted to speak out about it because there's not a whole lot of us that talk about the side effects of different drugs or how we reacted to it. But I wanted this video out there. I wanted to be able to talk about it because when I was going through this and I would tell the doctor what I was feeling, I was always pushed to the side. It didn't matter that my flares were worse. It didn't matter that my health was going downhill. It didn't matter that I thought I was about to be in a wheelchair if I couldn't figure out what was robbing me of all of my energy and the muscle weakness. But he really didn't care. He really didn't. He wasn't like trying to get to the bottom of it. We did do a little bit of testing, but he wasn't willing to take me off of the drug. He said my life is better on it, even though I had told him all of the ways that it wasn't. He still insisted. And by me telling him my health was going downhill, his reaction was, that's just lupus for you. This is what you have to look forward to. And let me tell you, that's not good enough for me anymore. I've grown a lot since that time. That's no longer good enough. We deserve better healthcare. We deserve doctors that actually listen to what we have to say and take it into account. Because telling me to keep taking a drug that is making me feel worse is not good enough anymore. For doctors to tell me that I'm just tired because I'm a mom, or I'm just tired because I'm not getting enough sleep when I try to explain what is going on, or you're better off on staying on a medication that makes your life worse, no longer cuts it for me. We are our own advocates. We have to speak out. We have to speak up. And if your doctor doesn't listen to you, find a doctor that does. Because I went through a year of trying to give hydroxychloroquine the chance to make my lupus better, and it only continued to make me worse. My body just didn't like hydroxychloroquine. I have no idea why it didn't work for me, but it works for others. I have no idea. But I was always confused during this time because I would talk to the doctor. I respected his opinion, and I would go to him and say, I feel worse. My health has never been worse. What do I do? What can I do? And it was always the same. You haven't been on the medication long enough. Well, I call bullshit on all of that now. It's our health and our life. And I don't know if hydroxychloroquine will be a good fit for you. All I can do is tell you what happened to me, how it happened. And now I've lived my life off of hydroxychloroquine, and I'm doing much better. So pay attention. Are you having side effects? Make sure you have a doctor that listens to you so that if you are experiencing side effects, they can try to get to the bottom of it and not continue to tell you, just give the drug time and you'll do better, because that's no longer good enough anymore. So that's what was happening to me at that time. Now, some of the things that I found or thought were side effects were not. Like my muscle weakness was not a side effect of hydroxychloroquine. However, the eyesight blurriness was. I did not develop a permanent eye damage or anything. Nothing permanent happened to my retina, which can sometimes happen on that drug. I was lucky that it didn't. And the health, the continued down spiral of health, the lupus flares that were getting worse just was telling me that my body wasn't happy on hydroxychloroquine. It just wasn't for me. And like I said, I wanted it to be for me. I wanted to have the results that everyone was talking about, because the doctors call this the lupus vitamins. If you have lupus, these are your vitamins, they call it. But it doesn't work for all of us. So, I don't want to scare everyone and say you can't take it or don't take it, because I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that. But I want you to be aware that you can't have side effects. And if you are, discuss them with your doctor and let him try to get to the bottom of it. But if your health continues to deteriorate like mine did, your body just might not like hydroxychloroquine. And all of our bodies react differently. And so I wanted this out there in case you're struggling right now with any drug and you think you're having side effects, but your doctor really isn't listening. Find a doctor that listens to you. because that will make this a whole lot easier. So where am I at now? I have been over a year off of hydroxychloroquine. I will never take that medication again because it just didn't do well with my body. My body pretty much hated it. Since I've gotten off, everything that I thought was a side effect has gotten better. The eyesight, the amount of flares, all of that has gotten better for me. So I actually do better off of hydroxychloroquine. And that's my hydroxychloroquine side effect stories. If you have lupus or an autoimmune disease or any of these topics that I talk about, be if this video has helped you out in any way, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if these topics are of interest to you, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.